That's the mood today. That is the mood today.
Oh,
Sometimes you need a girl. I got my click clack bag. God damn it, Noir.
Thank
Yes.
you all for having me, and I'm glad I was on before Bria because there's no way to follow her, so it's good.
garlic smells and tastes like ass. Well, you show me an ass that tastes like garlic, and I'm gonna find myself a new partner.
No.
Summer of Abria.
You could make someone cry over like Romeo and Juliet, or I could make them cry with a story about a werewolf giving a blowjob. And if I could do that, that's a trick to pull off.
Today, your PSA is that when you watch streamers, content creators, YouTubers, influencers, you do not actually know them. You may know their name, you may know facts about them, you do not know them. This is your PSA to not be overfamiliar. Thank you and have a good day.
And that's kind of why, I'm trying to be as unapologetic as possible, is because I'm trying to be the person that I needed back when I was growing up.
A new IP comes out that's perfect for you, right? But in order for this to exist, we have to get rid of another IP. And whichever IP you replace it with, that's how big it gets.
Star Wars. Bye.
I'll tell you one motherfucking thing. If you're in Australia, go fuck yourself. Australia. Yeah, that's right. I'm picking a fight with the entire goddamn continent of Australia.
So,
go fuck yourself,
tune
mate.
in for October 24th, our show where we have Wasabate, who is in fact Australian, and has promised us one authentic good day.
You know what? If your name is Liam O'Brien, go fuck yourself too. It's hands for you on site, Caleb.
Damn.
So what do you want to do about it? Do you want to play this game with me? Or do you want to forfeit? I don't really think you can keep up with me, but I'd love to see you try. Darling.
My Brookanita!
My co-host has been murdered.
You just gotta lie a lot and have one solid apology at the end, and that is the secret to Young Justice working every time.
I feel like that is a Thieves Guild's mantra. Lie longer, lie better. Papa John's.
Anita quite literally said, Noir knows him. And I was like, co-signed. All right, welcome aboard. I was like, that is enough for me. Noir knows and likes this person.
Well, we can always make a Respect Women Juice flask, so you can have it wherever you go.
I'm already working on putting it on a mug.
Excellent. Next, you need shot glasses.
Mm-hmm.
Just take a quick shot of Respect Women Juice. Yeah.
Huh? Where am I?
We're going into the that guy segment. Did you just black out for a little bit?
I was so busy fighting that everything just went red for a second.
You cannot do what I do, like at all. But I can't do what you do. And no one can tell your story. No one can sing your song but you.
I always realized critical misses. It's just it's a femme-focused channel, and the critical, okay, haha. And then I was like, wait a second. When you roll a 1, that's a critical miss. It
Just get the pun.
Yes,
Just get the pun.
I just got the pun.
And we're live. That was perfect timing. But you're muted, so boop, now you're not. There you go.
Oh, there it is. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Morning Ritual. I am one of your hosts, Noah. I go by he, they. You can find me all over the internet. It's the Noah Enigma. And for our other host,
that's me. I'm AJ Fox. She, they pronouns. You can find me everywhere at Fox Fabula. Branding drop.
And we have a wonderful guest with us today. I've had a chance to talk to you for a good couple of times now. Greg, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. I'm Craig Campbell. I'm the owner of Nerdburger Games. I make tabletop role-playing games and sometimes card games too, which are also a role-playing game. But yeah, that's what I do.
We have a niche.
So this is the first time that I've seen that you've made card games. Like the last couple of times I've talked to you, it's been about capers and cyber capers. What inspired the jump to card games?
Well, it's like each of my games, not all of them, but a lot of them are sort of like a personal challenge to myself to kind of make a game of a particular type using a particular mechanic, or being like a different format. Like I've done kind of more traditional GM and player games. I've done solo games and GM-less games and little zine games. And so I'm always kind of just trying different things. And I kind of hit on this idea of a card game that was, essentially also a role-playing game. So there's like a little bit of, it's kind of a hybrid. And the game is called Slay to Win. And it's a monster hunting game. The basic setup of it is that like if we were all playing, we are all a party of adventurers in a fantasy kingdom, and we're out to slay the monsters and save the kingdom and make all the people safe. But each of us also has this just driving goal in our hearts to become known as the greatest monster hunter ever. And in order to do that, we need to deal the killing blows as often as possible, because that's how you become known as the Slayer. And so the card game is effectively a monster fighting card game, but you'll also manipulate your way into making sure you're the one who deals the killing blow whenever possible. And then to frame it, there are story cards. So you're not just like, here's your characters, here's your monsters, you've got weapons and action cards, now fight. But there's a story that's set up, and each story card is set up as 3 acts. You'll randomly determine which scenes you're playing from each act. And each of the scenes, the acts in there are basically they're like drama scenes. They're like, things that kind of, you role play as much or as little as you want. You can kind of keep it quick and dirty, or you can kind of get more into the role play. And then in the process of those scenes is how you're doing different things that are helping you to draw cards. So you're building up your hand to have the resources so that when the monster fight comes, you have the capability to kill the monster and ultimately, hopefully, get the killing blow. So each story is 3 acts. You do 2 drama scenes, and then there's a monster fight. Two drama scenes, a monster fight, 2 drama, a monster, and that's one game. And you can play one game, or you could play like a campaign, which is like a series of games with multiple different stories. And whoever has the most trophy points that you earn from the monster cards. By dealing the killing blow, whoever has the most trophy points at the end is the greatest monster killer of all time.
A card PG.
That is clever, great day, card PG. Like, so does this game a lot for any, like you say you can manipulate your way to the top? In my PvP brain, that is like, Fox is over there getting a little too big for the britches there. Maybe I need to screw you over in this play. Like, is that how it is? Like, is there like aggro PvP in this, or is it more like instead of knocking another player down, you can find ways to edge yourself up?
There's no direct like PvP combat. You're not attacking the other characters.
You're safe this time, Fox.
In a weapon and depleting health kind of way, but you are kind of attacking by like messing with them too. Like there's a bunch of different things, a bunch of different ways that you do it. Like some of the characters, character cards, put you in a better position to be able to potentially be able to get those final strikes just because of the special abilities that character has. So you like that might make you a target to the other players, where they're all like, ooh, they've got something that like makes this a little easier for them. So we might need to kind of make sure they don't. You can the initiative order that gets determined when you're fighting the monsters, and it changes every round, can determine that. And there's different ways. You have a handful of action cards that you can use to do a bunch of different things. Like there are action cards that allow you to take your turn right now. Like the monster is down to only 1 or 2 health. Well, now I get my turn. Because I'm super fast and I'm going to jump in front of you. Or you can there are cards that allow you to manipulate other people's hands. So if like somebody else is about to like, Noir, if you're about to have your attack and the monster's low, I'm like, I don't want you to have all the cards you need in your hand to be able to get bonuses to kill this thing because I'm next. So I will use this card where I get to look in your hand and steal one of your cards. It's like, oh, there's a card that you were clearly about to use to kill the monster. I'll take it now. And then there's cards that allow you to go into the discard pile or search through the deck to find these things. So the cards that help you do these things will constantly get like recycled back into other people's hands. You'll get them out of the discard. You'll search for them in the deck. So there's a number of different ways that you can manipulate things, but then you can also there's also ways to manipulate yourself into getting those things that manipulate.
So my next question is like the drama cards, because I feel like that is the part that sets this apart. Like I kind of love that. Like, and here's our RP break. Like, how I know, like, just as a GM, getting people to like get in the role is hard. How do you do that via a card?
Well, it's the game it describes it in such a way, first of all, that you can role play as little or as much as you want. So it doesn't put a restriction on how you do it. It doesn't put rules into how you do it. So like, if you want to just say, well, my character, does this and says this, you can keep it third person. If you want to get totally first person and kind of speak in character and all that sort of thing, you can. There's an example of people talking to each other in a role play kind of environment. The scenes are described are basically just prompts. So they're very open-ended. So you're not being given a bunch of very specific information. There's no GM that's adjudicating anything. So like a scene might be that you're, like in the dungeon story where you're kind of basically doing a dungeon crawl. One of the scenes might be that you discover like there's another character that you come across, and they're trying to escape the dungeon. So you just talk to them. You can just talk to them about like, well, here's how you can get out. Like you can help them. You can just, role play that through that. And then when that scene kind of comes to a conclusion, everybody gets to draw a card from either the weapon deck or the action deck. So you can kind of pick and choose where you want to get your resources from. And you also make some sort of a check. So with that, for example, because it was a person you're talking to, it's an interact check. And you make an interact check, and whoever gets the highest highest roll on the interact check gets to draw an additional card.
I like that. Okay.
It's built, and the characters are built where your character is built from 2 cards. You have a class card and a quality card, and the quality is basically like an adjective. So you might be like a protective knight. And your attack and defense, your attack's on the character card, and your defense is on the quality card. And then your interact score is on the class card along with the attack, and then your sense score, which is like your 5 senses and being able to figure things out, is on your quality card, and they're inverse to each other. So if you're very, very good at attacking, you're not good at interacting. If you're very, very good at defending yourself, you're not very good at sensing things, and vice versa. So anybody who builds who has kind of a combat heavy character where they're good at attacking and defending is not going to be as good at sensing and interacting. So they're going to have a harder time getting those extra cards. They'll get some extra, they'll draw some cards because everybody gets to draw some, but they'll have a hard time getting the extras. So they'll be relying more on the fact that their attack and defense scores are better. Whereas the characters who don't have as good of an attack or a defense score will be relying on getting more cards and having more resources to do things with. And your sense score is what you use for initiative. So like if your sense score is high, you have a better chance of going first in initiative.
Okay. Is it possible for the monster to win? Like, is it possible for, like, if you run into a particularly tough monster for a TPK?
Well, technically the monster can kill you and you can end up having to make a new character, just like in a lot of role-playing games. It's like, Bob the fighter dies, so his replacement, Joe the fighter, comes in to pick up the slack, or you play whatever character, right? You create a new character. But there's a downside to that, because you like any trophy points that Bob had, Joe doesn't have. So you do have to, like, if you're starting to win,
you're starting from scratch.
Yeah, you start with some resources, but you don't have any trophy points from killing monsters because that guy's dead. And some monsters have a very high armor rating, and they can be very tough to kill. And if you've got characters that are relatively low attack score, they're going to be relying a lot on having the right resources to be able to boost their attacks. The game does have, and it was added because it was discovered in playtest kind of late in the game, that you could potentially have a bunch of characters who are not very good at attacking and just get bad draws. And so suddenly they just can't hit the monster. So you have a run. So you get into combat and the monster just sits there and whittles you down and whittles you down. That's no good. So you can run away.
That's a very good feature.
If the group agrees, if half or more of the players agree to run away, everybody runs away, and you do 2 more drama scenes so that you can build up your resources again. So you might have a situation where it takes a while. Like you might have to run away once, even twice, to be able to take out a tough monster if you have the right non-combat kind of characters and you're having bad draws. But once you kind of get going in the game, the draws are going to come. You're going to get the cards that give you bonuses. You're going to be able to manipulate the deck and pull it out of the deck or pull it out of the discard or whatnot. So there's plenty of ways for you to get to those things. But yeah, it could be a really tough fight against a very powerful monster.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
especially since the monsters are actually a combination of 2 monsters.
Wait, what?
just like your character is a combination of 2 cards, every monster is actually a hybrid combination of 2 monster cards. So you could draw the demon card and the slime card. And so that's a slime. Okay, the demon card is your primary. It's a demon that happens to be a slime demon. If you drew them in the other order, now it's a demonic slime. So the primary card plays, which is the card you draw first, plays the bigger role.
Okay.
And some of the numbers and things that you rely mostly on that. But then you also get the special abilities from the other monster. And there's even like one story in there where you can create monsters that are 3. And that basically just gives them, it means the monster has a lot of special abilities.
You could have a demonic slime dragon.
Yes. And they might have a lot of keywords, and which might result, like, for example, in immunities. Like if you got like the ice elemental and the dragon is a fire keyword, the ice elemental is a cold keyword. So their damage from ice and fire weapons are reduced. So you have to find like normal physical weapon. You have to have normal physical weapons or magic weapons that aren't specifically ice or fire.
Okay, so those keywords can really kind of screw you up if you've like built a certain way. I rock with that. And the more I hear about this, and I know this might be an annoying question, but like with card games in particular, the first thing I think of, is because Yu-Gi-Oh! And Magic have trained me to do so, is expansions. Like this sounds like a game that can continuously get bigger. And I know, like, the game is coming out. It's just like, God, let me have the thing out first before you ask me about more. But like, is that something that you have thought, like, put any thought into? Like, okay, now that it's done, like, what other ways would you like to express this?
I have absolutely thought about that. And it's like you could have an expansion deck that's like, here's new action cards and monster cards and character cards or weapon cards or whatever, I think, that you could expand the game with. I went so far as to like, this game is fantasy themed and has fantasy weapons and fantasy character types. Like there's a knight and a barbarian and a rogue and an enchanter and so forth. But you could, but like the action cards, I had one of my playtesters actually pointed out to me, is like, this is a fantasy game, but all the action cards have really non-fantasy sounding names. And I said, that's purposeful because I don't want it to, I want you to be able to use those action cards. Like there could potentially be an expansion that's like, here's science fiction stuff. And you can use the action cards to do all the stuff, but you've got like science fiction-y characters and science fiction-y monsters and science fiction weapons.
I was immediately.
But the action cards still fit because they're broad. They're not like specifically like, nothing sounds fantasy oriented.
That's. Can I get an example of like an action card name? I'm curious now.
Oh boy.
One thing
I need. Yoink, that's the one that you use to steal stuff. Yeah.
Yo, do you know how fucking pissed I'd be if somebody ruined my turn with a yoink card?
Right, but if you have the card that allows you to pull a card from the discard, then you can yoink them right back.
That just feels so disrespectful.
Gimme is another one.
Gimme. Yeah, that's a different type of stealing card.
I'm familiar because, hey, everybody, I did the graphic design for this project. Nepotism
Ready
works.
and waiting, focus attack, reckless attack.
Okay.
That's a bunch of the attack ones that are kind of there.
I like Drama Llama.
What?
Wasn't there one? There was one that was called Drama Llama.
There's one that's like more drama, please, or something like
Yeah.
that. Like gives you do additional drama scenes.
Yeah, that was. I think that was the earlier playtest name for it was Drama Llama. But now it's I love drama or something like that.
Yeah,
I believe.
They've got my back. Gets you a sidekick.
So
who you can sacrifice to keep yourself from getting damaged.
I like that card. Oh, is this the first card game that you've made?
This is the first card game that I have attempted to publish.
So
I have made many games that have never seen the light of day.
So my question is, what are some of the key differences you've noted from bringing a card game to publication versus bringing a like traditional TTRPG book? And like, what are some of the unexpected challenges that you've encountered in those differences?
Role-playing games, you can just keep writing words and writing words and writing words. In card games, you have a certain number of words that you can fit on your card once you know how big that card is and what the art, how much space the art takes up and any other little things that go on there. And you don't want to get the font, too small. So you can only fit so much information on there. And if you want to keep your rule sheet or rule booklet reasonable, you have to be very succinct with your rules as well. You can't spend 40 pages telling people how to play the game. Like nobody wants to dig out a 40-page card game rule book. So that was probably the biggest challenge, because it was finding succinct ways to say things, keeping it consistent from card to there's a certain amount of that you see in role-playing games where they use like similar terminology and they just change up keywords and things, and you're always kind of describing like especially with like spells or psionic powers or superpowers. There's like a certain way you describe it. Yeah, but kind of establishing what that phraseology is and staying consistent with it, because that will help teach the card game, help to teach the game as well. Because like once you figured out, this phraseology tells me how I can do this thing, then I find that similar phraseology somewhere on a different card that tells me how to do a different thing. But I understand like how the the instruction is being constructed on the card.
Okay.
Oh no.
I saw it. So we're good. Real quick question. You've mentioned a couple of times now that you roll in Slay to Win. Does this involve dice by any chance?
It has no dice. It requires no pencil and paper, no dice. You can literally play it with what's in the box. The way it works is there is a randomizer, a random chance kind of thing in there. Your action deck, right underneath the name of the action card, there's a number from 1 to 6, and there's an equal distribution of numbers across the entire action deck. And so when you need to do something that requires a random roll, but in this case, a random card flip, rather than rolling a die, you will flip an action card off the deck right into the discard and just use that number.
Oh, that's clever.
So you'll rotate through the deck very quickly. You'll put cards into the discard very quickly, which is another way, like we talked about. It's a good way for you to pull cards. You have other cards that allow you to pull cards from the discard.
That's very clever.
So, like in a given game, in a playtest, you might go through the entire action deck twice, like 1.5 times, or maybe even twice, depending on how many, how many checks were made and how many drama scenes you had and all that sort of thing. So it's always like what you have in your hand, what everybody else has in their hand, what's left in the card deck, what's left in the discard is always changing.
I really like that. That is a very good way to like replicate dice rolls without having somebody needing to bring a die to the game. Yeah, I like that.
And it was a product decision too, because if you put dice into a box, now it's something that a little kid can swallow. And you start having to deal with like safety testing and all this sort of thing that goes in there. Whereas a playing card is not, I mean, technically you could chew it up. Anybody could chew up a playing card and swallow it, but it's not just inherently something that somebody can just go into their mouth. Like any game that has dice or chits or any of that kind of stuff in it, that little piece, like board games with their little meeples and stuff, those are all, subject to dealing with, like making sure that, first of all, it's not going to kill somebody, that you have warnings that tell people that they're small items, and also that they're not toxic.
Craig, I couldn't have asked for a better segue, because we have a section of the show.
You're gonna swallow that die?
No, never. In fact, it's quite the opposite. There's a silent war going on in the TTRPG world, where some people see things like this as the forbidden crunch. They see dice and they just want to put them in their mouth. They call themselves the crunch crew. And then there's the others of us who are like, hey, that is a choking hazard. You shouldn't do that. We call ourselves Stop the Crunch. Now, we ask every guest on this show what side of this war they're on. And so now it is your turn. Are you on team Crunch Crew? Or are you on team Stop the Crunch? Because
you're asking me if I suck on my dice, basically.
Yeah.
No, I don't suck on my dice. I am Stop the Crunch. I will not
of the angels.
I will not slap the die out of your mouth.
I will.
But I might look at you funny if you're like sucking on your D20 like it's a peach pit.
Oh, see, so now.
But I am also a dice tower knocker over. So
you've got to bring me into this. What do you
dice
mean
tower
by
knocker
that?
over? People build dice towers, they put the D6 down and
yeah,
all the way up to the put the little D4 on the top. There was years ago in Milwaukee when I was at my Saturday game. There was a guy who loved to build just kind of a fidgety thing that he would do while he was playing the game. He'd build dice towers, and he would invariably do it on his character sheet. Like he'd have his character sheet on the table, and he'd be building. So I'd just reach over and just kind of the character sheet. I'd be like, I need to see something. Or the GM would do that too. The GM would be like, let me check something on your character sheet, Joe. And he'd grab the character sheet and knock the dice tower over. And then he stopped building it on the character sheet. And then we would do things like, I need to borrow your pencil. And we'd grab the pencil and sweep the dice tower. Poor guy. He got more dice towers knocked over.
You got to stop building that tower after a while.
He never did. He never stopped. It was just it was a nervous thing that he did. It became, he laughed. He was having fun with it. Because when you knock down the dice tower builder's dice tower, he gets to build another dice tower. When you think about it, we were helping him build dice towers.
Putting the D6 as the base of the tower is amateur hour.
There's building dice towers and there's having dice towers. I don't have a problem with you building a dice tower. I do take slight issue with you having a dice tower.
I'm adding that to the questions. I've never heard of that, but you know what? It does make sense sometimes when I see, like, I play mainly on internet games, but when sometimes I see people building those, and I do feel that righteous desire to destroy those towers.
If I were to seize, because you can't know, because usually you're just seeing their face or a small area, right? So I don't know. They might be building dice towers when I play online with somebody. But if I ask somebody, or I see, and they say yes, or I see them building a dice tower, I'll ask them to knock it over for me. Because I would say, like, if we were at a table right now, I would knock your dice tower over so that you could build another one.
You know that tower's gotta go, right? Like, I'm just imagining it sounding daunting and threatening.
If the role play scene goes along too long and nobody's been making checks, you got to just, dice tower check. Anybody building a dice tower there while we're role playing?
Because you know what time it is.
Okay, well, you're gonna need to knock that over.
So we have another segment here, and I'm gonna put a switch on it. Usually, we ask if you could play any TTRPG with any 5 people that are alive right now. What 5 people would you play with? Who's the GM? And what game are you playing? I'm curious if you could watch or play Slay to Win with any 5 people that are alive right now. Who are you picking?
Oh, good Lord.
People hate this.
Let's do it this way. It's a game for 3 to 5 players, so it's going to be me and 4 other people.
Yep.
4 people. Who would be fun to just play a ridiculous role-playing monster hunting card game with?
Building expected this dice tower's not up to code.
Yeah, you don't build any dice tower with the game. Although you could have dice there and build a dice tower.
You could build a card tower though with the game.
That's true. You could build a house of cards. Joe Mangione?
Yeah,
the right name. What?
Manganiello?
Manganiello. That's Chuck Mangione. I was thinking of Joe Manganiello. Yeah, the big buff dude that plays D&D and is like an ambassador for the game.
Yeah.
He would be fun to play with just because like most of the people that I play with don't look like him. So I'm just trying to I'm peppering my table with people that are very different from the people that I normally play with.
What? That's somebody that's so swole. I might feel a type of way about playing a card like I could do this, but also his bicep is the size of my forehead. So like maybe I'm yoinking somebody else.
Let's throw in oh God, I mean, this has put me on the spot, man. I'm just trying to pick like famous people that probably don't play games. All the Golden Girls are gone, aren't they? Can I pick living or dead?
No, it has to be Ruby.
Oh,
I was gonna say I for this I might change it up a little bit, mainly because this is the punishment question, but you answered the crotch question correctly.
How about Toni Collette, who I love as an actress? Mostly I want to play the game with her, not because I want to play the game with her, but because I would just want to tell her that I think she's awesome, and I'd love to hear stories that she has to tell about the movies that she's been in, and TV shows.
I would be scared to play with her because that, like, in Hereditary,
she's gonna hereditary me.
Yes. What do you mean you took a card from me? I worked so hard. And it's like, oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, and then she lights the room on fire. Yeah, that's the end of the game, I suppose.
He is in fact the greatest monster hunter. Please continue.
I'm not a fan of the man at all, but I think it would be entertaining to see him try to play a game. Would be Tom Brady. I'm picking somebody just because everybody knows the name, knows him. I think he would be like. Oh, you know what? Skip that. Gronk, the Gronk guy, the tight end.
Gronkowski.
Yeah, he would be fun because he seems like just a really fun person. I
say this as respectfully as possible. I think you might have to explain the rules a few times to Gronk.
How about Pete Buttigieg?
Oh, I think he would destroy everybody at that table. I think that motherfucker's too smart.
He would be really good at explaining, like give him the rules to read, and then he could teach everybody the game. He'd be really good at explaining things.
Yeah, you would need that for Gronk.
He's really great at kind of getting points across and being very clear about things.
I would definitely watch that. I would definitely watch that. Cause like I know
kitty cat.
Oh, look at my boy.
It's raining outside and he's being a little baby about it.
So am I. It was raining yesterday.
So another question that I have, and this is a little bit more world topics. We were talking earlier in the green room about like how just the gaming industry has gotten so much harder because of tariffs and things of that nature. My question is like, how are you navigating that, especially at the launch of a new product?
Well, I am having a Kickstarter that is not fulfilling as quickly, or is not funding as quickly as I would like it to. But I think that is happening to a lot of Kickstarters right now. I think there are a lot of people who are just not backing Kickstarters. In fact, this is anecdotal, but I have a feeling based on what I'm seeing that there's a lot of people who would normally just go to Kickstarter and find, like that's part of their thing is like on Tuesdays, they go check out Kickstarters and they see if there's something cool, that they're simply not even going to the platform because they don't want to be tempted. I have a feeling that there's a not insignificant number of people who are avoiding the temptation entirely. So projects are funding, but they're not funding at the levels that they once were, which means that you've got projects that where perhaps the company is having to foot a little bit of money themselves in order to get things done, which is kind of where I'm at. Because do keep in mind that the funding goal that you see for a Kickstarter is not always every dollar that they need to make the game. It is often, this is what we need to finish the game. And if we can get more, that reimburses us for some of the money we've already put toward it. I think there's probably games that are not getting as much bells and whistles. They're not going to get the stretch goals for the cool premium Kickstarter exclusive bits and pieces, that's that sort of thing. Yeah. There are certainly companies that are just not running Kickstarters at all right now that would have been, because May is kind of a prime Kickstarter month. It's historically a big Kickstarter month for games. Yeah, it's and then when it comes to just planning for future products and dealing with current, whatever you've got that's currently kind of in the pipe is getting affected by everybody. Like people who understand the market aren't surprised by this, but I think a lot of people are surprised by how quickly everything falls apart when you can't embrace the global economy the way you once could, because there's just added expenses that become untenable for companies. There are companies that, like board games in particular, board games got hit harder than RPGs just because the infrastructure for building board games is entirely outside the United States. There's very little going on in the US that can do the types of stuff that we have come to see in board games in the last 10 or 15 years. And so the board game companies that like basically when this all started happening, they immediately stopped every plan that they had. And then a month later, they laid off people. That's how quickly it happens, because a lot of these companies, they are small businesses. They are just a few, handful of people. Sometimes they're a very, very small business. Sometimes it's only 10 or 12 people, and they run on razor thin margins. And when there's suddenly going to be a lack of revenue because they can't get their new product into the country right now, and they're keeping it stored in some bonded warehouse in China because they can't afford to pay the extra money to bring it in. That's revenue that they were counting on to get a game into distribution for the convention season, which is coming up. And we're going to make sales at big conventions, and they were going to put into distribution for summertime sales. And all that kind of went kerplooey. And so suddenly the companies that had a little bit of a cash reserve that could kind of take a cushion and keep employees around, they can do that. Other companies, they don't have that cushion necessarily. And it all depends on kind of the nature of the company, how it's run, how big it is, how small it is, what just happened to it. Sometimes you might have a company that we had a lot of cushion and everything was great, and then we had this product that didn't sell as well as we were hoping, and we've got a lot of stock that's not moving, all happening before the tariff situation. And now there's this added thing where they ate their cushion, from before, and they were planning to make it up with the convention season and summer distribution. It's really rough. It's really, really rough.
You kind of mentioned something there for a second. I kind of want to double back. I never thought about how big corporations responding to a situation affects smaller corporations. So when the bigger companies start doing layoffs, does that have an effect on the smaller companies, seeing even the big guys are starting to lose talent? Does that in and of itself affect smaller companies?
I can't really speak to how it might affect them financially. But I know that morale-wise, it's terrible. When the companies that you thought were rock solid purveyors of RPGs or card games or board games or whatever, have bad news come out like this tariff situation, and 2 months later, they're laying off half their staff, what does that tell you as the little company? That tells you, oh, I'm in trouble too. I may just be in a different type of trouble. I might, if I'm doing this as a side gig, I might be able to do some different things that absorb stuff because I've got a day job that's, paying my bills and putting a roof over my head and everything. But when it's a company where you're actually making your living off of it, and there are employees who are also making their living off of it, morale-wise, it's incredibly disheartening to see that all sort of happen. And you find yourself, even my position, I do this as a side gig. I have a day job as an architect. I am not hurting financially to keep myself fed and clothed and sheltered. But I also am at an age where I'm putting a lot of money towards saving for retirement and trying to hopefully have a retirement. And so I only have so much money that I can be putting from my own pocket into the game company. And so when the company suddenly can't have a Kickstarter that has a Kickstarter that's not going to easily reimburse for money already sunk, that's going to put a strain on the company. And then what happens if this continues and the next Kickstarter is the same way? And now I don't have any extra money, and I can't even pay to do a bigger game because I can't afford a $5,000 art contract anymore.
We got a cluster from chat. Are there issues with Kickstarter goals, rewards not covering enough manufacturing or shipping costs with the new tariffs in effect?
In general, I would say that it depends on how the company functions and how they set their goals for their Kickstarters, and whether they can absorb doing spending some of their own other reserve cash, because there's a tendency with Kickstarter to think about it as, and especially with hobbyists and people do it as a side gig, is I want the Kickstarter to kind of support itself. I want any money I spend up front, I want to make back during the Kickstarter, and then also cover the production and the shipping and blah blah blah, right? And so that the Kickstarter itself is essentially in the black.
Mhm.
And it takes that whole project in the black. But if you aren't going to recoup some of the money that you spent up front, now the Kickstarter is in the red. Like you have lost money on the Kickstarter. Now you've got a product that you can sell and you can eventually make that money back. But how fast will you do that when the economy's in the crapper and nobody's buying anything because they're saving money because they're expecting price increases and everything? So like it's a snowballing effect that hits, and it's different company to company. I know that with me, I did some hard, serious number crunching this morning. And have made some decisions about how I can proceed with what Nerdburger Games does, the way it does it right now. And it's going to require some, for me personally in my lifestyle and how, how I spend money myself, and whether I can, maybe put a little bit more money toward the company to make sure that I've got a little cushion to do some things. It's looking at, establishing like a Ko-Fi and being like, hey, like if you got $5 a month and you like what I do just in general, I would just like kind of help keep everything afloat so that I can cover some of these things that are going to be additional expenses. And I'm not going to have, my Kickstarters aren't going to be as big until things start to shake out. And the real kicker, the one that's impossible to know is, let's say, because as we're recording this right now, there are tariff negotiations going on between the US and China, like literally right now as we're talking. We're recording on a Sunday, or we're streaming on a Sunday for anybody listening later. So if the tariff situation with China suddenly becomes much better or is dropped back to where it was entirely, that doesn't mean that everything turns around tomorrow. In fact, it could be a year or more before the spending populace says, I feel confident again. Because who knows when there's suddenly going to be another shift, either in tariffs or some other thing that's going to global market, that they're going to suddenly be looking at, price increases or having to save or having supply chain issues or having a short supply of certain things or whatever. So like it might get back fairly quickly. I don't know. This is unprecedented. So, I mean, how long will it take the average person with that little extra cash that they spend on their hobby, whatever it is, if it's games or anything else that they're into, like that they've stopped spending on because they got to stick to the necessities? Like how long will it take before they feel comfortable spending on that other thing? It's a personal decision. It could take a while before it ramps back up. Like you might have some people that are like, okay, everything's cool. And they just start, backing Kickstarters and buying stuff for their kids that they don't necessarily need, like getting more buying the bigger thing, the thing that the kid really wants instead of getting like a little gift or something for like there's a billion ways that it can play out. But it also could be one of those things that kind of slowly ramps. It takes, like, some people get back right into it right away, and some people, they have to see it not bite them in the ass for a year before they're going to feel secure again.
You brought up a good point with just kind of illustrating how stuff like this escalates, because if enough people can't get product to conventions, then conventions are going to start to feel it. And then, like, that conventions are kind of like the core to our hobby to a certain extent. Like,
sure,
it's just interesting to see, like, the structure of a hobby that we love shaken so quickly by, like, just, again, unprecedented
unprecedented fuckery.
Yes, just non like unreasonable fuckery. But man, I suppose my question now is, like, from the time that you started to, like, right now, have have you experienced anything even close to this before? Like,
No.
I'm imagining like a lot of a lot of smaller creators, have had experiences, but like this is just something different. Like I don't know. Like
the only other time in Nerdburger Games history where I've experienced a shakeup on the level of this is the first, like the year and a half after the first year and a half of COVID. There was a shakeup, but that shakeup was good for me. I wasn't going to conventions, so I had a bunch of expenses that I didn't have.
Okay.
I ran the 2021 was my best year for Kickstarters by far, because everybody was stuck at home and everybody was buying little games that they could play online at home with friends. And solo games got big, and I did a solo game in the middle of all that too, and that did very well. Like I had my Nerdburger Games best year was 2021. And I am 100% sure it is because I didn't have expenses, because I wasn't going to conventions. I didn't have those expenses, and because there was a lot of spending on games with Kickstarters and just people buying stuff because they were stuck at home and they had nothing else to do. They weren't going out to spend money. So they stayed in and spent money. But this is a different type of shakeup. This is a shakeup that affects the bottom line, as opposed to the COVID thing, which was more about how am I going to pass my time? How am I going to keep my sanity? How am I going to, have fun and have some sort of a social life if it has to be online instead of in person? And
you bring that up and it just makes you realize just what a wild 5 years we've fucking had. Like,
yeah.
What the fuck? I'm sorry. Maybe not the best response, but it's just like, 2021. We were all,
And the one thing, now I've said a lot of stuff that kind of can be construed as doom and gloom, or at least very cautiously optimistic, or maybe just only slightly optimistic. But I will also say this, in Noir, you made the comment, like, we've had a hell of a 5 years. Every 5 years of everyone's life ever has been a hell of a 5 years. It's just that you forget how much of a hell of a 5 years that other 5 years was. It's true. We people love to say things like, we live in the most tumultuous time. We live in the time when the youth is the most irresponsible. No. It's being human. This is all being human. It's all living in on a world where there's all these people and they're all doing stuff that affects you in some way, shape. I mean, the last time we had a 5 years that wasn't a hell of a 5 years, like, I don't know if that such a thing exists.
I'm trying to think.
The 5 years after 9/11, that was a hell of 5 years. That changed the world. The 5 years after JFK was shot, the 5 years after the oil crisis in the late 70s, the 5 years after, like, pick a time.
I'm trying to think. Like,
and I don't mean to belittle or diminish the thing that you said. I'm trying to instill a little confidence to be like, yes, it's rough. And the next few years are still going to be a hell of a few years because of the jackass in the White House. But
I agree with you.
We keep on keeping on.
You're trying to think. He was trying to roll back the tape there and be like, "When was it last? Not a hell of 5 years."
I was trying to think. My 2015 to 2020 was pretty. I don't remember it.
Well, and the thing about it is looking at it from the broader perspective of everybody. Like, you might have had a 5 year period where everything was pretty cool, but was everything pretty cool for kind of people as a group? There's like,
you got me sounding like Taff from Boulder. Like, I wish I lived in.
It's just something to keep in mind. It's just something to keep in mind that. There will be 10 years from now, you'll look back and you'll be like, boy, it's been a hell of a 5 years. And you'll look back to this period and you'll be like, yeah, that was weird too, but this has been a hell of a 5 years. Like, because it's immediate, because it's affecting you right now. So it has more weight because it's on your shoulders right now. Like, think about, you could pick a period in history. The World War II, that was a hell of a 5 years. The Korean War, the Vietnam War was a hell of a 5 years.
I think the the 5 years of
the
World War
the,
II.
the 1963 to 1968, where all the great American leaders were all getting assassinated. That was a hell of a 5 years.
If anybody wants to draw
it's always a hell of a 5 years.
This brings us to...
But I do recognize that right now it has been a hell of a 5 years, and we all have to be kind to ourselves and kind to each other, and help to deal with the hell of a 5 years that we've been dealing with.
And the hell of a 5 years to come.
Yeah.
That's almost a game I want to make now. Like, the hell of a 5 years.
Yeah, make a role-playing game called It's Been Hell of a 5 Years.
The Great Beaver War, hell of a 5 years. 5 years after the Boston Great Molasses Flood. It's a hell of 5 years.
Our next segment here.
The Great Depression. That was a hell of 10 years. The first 5 years and the second 5 years. Anyway.
It was a great time for bread. Oh, no. That's terrible.
Great time for standing in the line for bread.
We have a segment here where we give you the chance to take all of the success, money, TV shows from one franchise and bestow it onto another. What franchise are you deading to enhance? A lot of we have a lot of, like, I know my personal choices, like, let's take all the success from Harry Potter and give it to Star Trek. Like, that's just me. I'm a Star Trek boy. What franchise is getting the axe from you, and to the benefit of who?
Well, you stepped on my answer, which would probably be the Harry Potter series. And it's not so much that, I want to take the success of Harry Potter as I want to take the success of J.K. Rowling.
Yeah.
I think the movies are, wonderful stories, and there's actors who did a great job, and there's all sorts of there's good stuff there, but there's also garbage. And then there's the person that we're talking about. Geez, what's outlived its usefulness?
Like, the first part you're feeling like the Grim Reaper, but then the second part you get to feel like Santa. Like, it's like, and now I bestow upon you these gifts.
Okay, define franchise for me too. Like, literally something that's like multiple books, multiple movies, multiple interconnected television shows. It has to be like a franchise, like a big broad kind of thing.
I'm gonna say it doesn't have to be a franchise. So you're taking from a franchise to give to any other project.
Okay, so let's take everything J.K. Rowling is going to do from now into the future, because there's going to be success. There's plenty of people that aren't upset with her.
I don't know. They got a black state now, so like that HBO show might pop.
Well, you want to hear my supreme irritation?
What?
John Lithgow is going to play Dumbledore.
Yeah.
In 1982, he was in The World According to Garp, and he played a trans woman named Roberta. And it was bleeding edge of representation of trans people. It was human and honest and a wonderful portrayal, and something that Lithgow received a great deal of credit for. And it's something that I think has been forgotten because it was The World According to Garp, and that's like a very niche audience. That's not one of the more better known Robin Williams movies, even though it also had Glenn Close in it. And and now he's doing a Rowling. He's doing Dumbledore. That's really, really disappointing. But let's take that sort of thing and let's put it into it's not a franchise, but let's put it into science fiction stories that are unlike anything you've seen before. That tackle social commentary with really well-developed story, performance, editing, everything. I want more Three-Body Problem. I want more Severance. I want more, like some of that stuff, the stuff that's like it's these niche audiences that discover like Three Body Problem, or like Severance kind of came into its own a little bit with season 2. Like I want that, because if that stuff is more successful, we will get more of it.
I keep hearing about Three Body Problem. I have yet to check it out, but I keep hearing really good things about it. Like,
I'm not going to do the thing that people say, well, you have to watch it right now, because that sometimes makes people not want to watch it. But I will say, I will say this: they have already committed to doing the 2nd and 3rd season. That's going to tell the complete story. So you're not going to get halfway through this.
Okay.
Have the rug pulled out from under you. It's based on a series of books so it has a source material that has a cohesive story that's kind of gone where it's going to go. And it explores the idea of life off of this, life elsewhere in the universe in ways that we've not seen ever before, and also hits on some technological and science fiction themes that we've not seen play out. And there are multiple scenes in that series. It's like eight episodes, I think, for the first season, that are unlike anything you have ever seen. I guarantee it.
Okay, I think I might have just found what I'm watching later today.
And now that I've said that, Noir and perhaps AJ and anybody else listening here, don't go looking up what's the wacky thing or what's the mind-blowing thing go watch it. It's 8 hours of show. You can watch that without going digging for a spoiler and accidentally discovering something else that you didn't want to know in advance.
I literally just put Three Body Problem into Google, and because I don't know where to watch it. And right as you said that, it was almost like, here's what Three Body Problem is in the simplest terms, and I had to click away.
Don't dig too deep. Don't dig too deep. Just watch it and enjoy it.
Oh, they're ready. They're out here ready to spoil.
Because it's been the stuff that I'm kind of referring to has it's been out a while. So like it's been rehashed, it's been hashed through a bunch of times. There's reaction videos and discussion
Netflix.
of stuff. You can get spoiled on some really key stuff, some really cool stuff to see just unspoiled. You can get spoiled very easily, so be careful. Yeah, and that's on Netflix. Severance is on Apple. I think
that's the other one I've been hearing so much about. Severance.
Also on Apple is For All Mankind, which is really interesting. It's not quite on the level of Severance and Three Body Problem, but it's really interesting. It's the story of what if the space race didn't end in the 60s? What if the Russians got to the moon first? And it made the space race just keep going, and the two countries just kept pushing each other. And it throws in some technological advancements that allow the story to leap forward, and like it gets very science fiction-y in later seasons, where it's like stuff that we don't have the technology for yet, but it's because those advancements are made because of like the fact that the space race keeps going. Like the space race kind of died when the Russians didn't, the Soviets didn't get to the moon in the real world. But like what happens if like that had continued, if the United States had continued to put money into it and continued to push the bounds of technology and establishing a moon base and going further out into the solar system and all that sort of thing.
It feels like we are in like a golden age of sci-fi right now. Like we're getting some really good stuff, like from your I almost said AAA, but like from your like blockbusters. Like Dune, I am in love with Dune all over again. Like just like, but from Dune to like Star Wars, Andor is just taking over. And then we've got like Severance and Three Body Problem, which like I haven't personally checked those two out, but I'm looking forward to it. Like I guess my question is, like, when in the midst of like so much amazing sci-fi, like do you find yourself like when you're making a game like Slay to Win kind of going, I know I started fantasy, but I kind of want to pivot to sci-fi?
Well, no, because the next game that's coming down the pike is science fiction.
Yeah, it is.
Because I that's okay. you don't have the problem I have, which is I'll start working on something, get heavily influenced by something else, and like immediately want to start working on that next thing.
Oh, I have that problem sometimes. I get sidetracked into something like the new shiny pops into my head, and I'm like, ooh, I need to explore this. But I have to also show the discipline to be like, okay, this other thing is very far along. I do need to complete that. There comes a point where there's like you have to keep rolling, if at all possible.
As somebody who is making a sci-fi game and has made a cyberpunk game, I am very curious to like ask you, where do you find that the line between the two is? Like, when does sci-fi become cyberpunk?
Or or vice versa?
Yeah.
Well, I think of sci-fi as less in broad terms. There's a lot of nuance to it, but in broad terms, to me, science fiction is less a genre and more a setting.
Okay.
You can tell dramatic family-based, family drama stories in a science fiction setting. You can tell apocalyptic stories in a science fiction setting. You can tell a comedy story in a science fiction setting. Now, if the science fiction is also integral to the story, then it becomes more of a genre. It becomes like, any like we've got a slew of AI or androids gone wrong, gone bad, killing people. Like we've seen those in movies and TV shows a lot lately. Like that's kind of more genre specific because it is very, very much science fiction. Hopefully not science fact in the future. But it's more genre. It feels more like a genre, whereas cyberpunk, it has certain elements of a setting that's important in that you need, probably need it to be kind of dystopian, and large corporations are in control, and it had, ideally a punk mentality of like you're fighting back against that. It's very anti-corporate, anti-government. There's a fair bit of cyberpunk media and games and so forth that has been produced where the cyberpunk side of it is the veneer that's placed over it. It's steel and chrome, and it's dark and raining, and there's katanas, and there's kind of like people in skimpy, weird, kind of futuristic looking outfits, and that's
neon on them.
Some people, they have silver jumpsuits with V piping. But it becomes more, it's more veneer, it's more aesthetic, as opposed to being punk, being specifically about and that's like with Capers Cyberpunk, which is a game I designed, which is kind of the tail end of the Capers story, where the mega corporations kind of take over and these unregistered superpowered criminals are the ones who are fighting back. It's not steel and chrome and dark and raining. There's not a katana anywhere to be seen, there's no like Yakuza style, gangs that are represented. It's but it, like I described it to people a lot of times, I still do, as like you can fight the megacorps in the daylight. Because it is a supers game, so there's a certain amount of color to it, a certain amount of kind of color and flash, and like being a comic booky kind of look and feel. But it's still about people that are helping communities and people that are downtrodden and that are under the thumb of these giant mega corporations. And the idea of defeating them and freeing everybody from the mega corporation is less a goal and more of, like you're fighting the fight. You're not necessarily winning the war. Which is the case, I think, with a lot of stories that revolve around fighting something that's way too big and powerful to be conceivably defeated. At least in any simple sort of way, it would have to be like a massive multi-year, like a lot of people involved, and a lot of things have to go your way, and all sorts of things.
Well, that's interesting, because you're talking about like removing certain elements that I think people immediately think of when it comes to cyberpunk, but it still remains cyberpunk even without them, which I think that is a good way to test what cyberpunk is, by like just seeing how much of that is just extra versus what is necessary, and fighting corporations in the daylight. I like that. I like that. You touched on something for a hot second here, and like I kind of wanna bring it back to that. We were talking about AI, um, in terms of cyberpunk, but just in our real world, uh, like this is a huge controversial like aspect of everything because AI is being pushed in everything. And I know that there are a lot of game designers that are using AI and like using it as a shortcut to get certain aspects of game creation done. Um like what are your thoughts on that? Like I'm curious, like when you see, people in this field that you're working in doing that, like what how do you take to that?
Well, there's, AI is a broad term, and
Mhm.
it reflects a lot of different things. When it gets to the stuff that's kind of being talked about the most in gaming, I mean, I think like using AI or that type of machine learning and so forth to speed up and help a doctor make a diagnosis
Yeah.
and find it and identify a treatment plan, I'm all for that. So there are ways that sort of mechanism can be used for good. I think
absolutely
generative art AI, Mid-Journey and so forth is theft straight up. It's straight up theft. They scrape the internet for images without the permission of the people who created those things, and they made a machine that will spit out things that look like that very quickly. And that machine learned from other people's toil and hard work and dedication and soul. And that type of artwork lacks that essential human quality that it was created by a person with a passion for creating this thing, who has spent the time and the energy and has perhaps also made sacrifices in their own life in order to become very good at this thing, or to turn it into something that they find enjoyment in, or that they can make a few dollars off of, or make their whole career out of, and actually support themselves and their family off of. And so it is, the aspects of AI that are built on the backs of creatives, and then just replicating that sort of thing. It feels hollow, and it feels inhuman.
Are you worried about like your like I think one of the things that I've not recently, but one of the things that I've learned is like it's not just art, like game design, like people are doing the same thing with like games, putting in rule set and then having AI spit out really shitty games.
Yeah,
Garbage Cloud is another
it'll
one.
spit out. There's plenty of garbage to buy. It's another type of garbage. It's another type of like, I don't want to spend the time to learn how to make a game. So I'm going to take this great idea I have, and ideas are a dime a dozen, and execution is where it's at. And I'm going to use this machine to execute my idea. And maybe I'm going to run it through iterations where it'll refine it and make it even better, and quote unquote better, and but ultimately you have not created art. You have created a photocopy of art. You create a machine replication of art. And game design is art. Writing, creative writing of all sorts is art, period. It comes from the person. It is personal. It comes from their emotion, from their effort, their dedication. in their humanity and their experience that they've lived and other things that they've drawn into themselves from other people by being alive and being part of the world and part of humanity. And anything that's just like spit out a game and I make a list of 20 things I want to see in this game, and I describe like the basics of a few things of how the mechanics might work, and then a machine spits out a playable game, quote unquote. For anybody who's just listening to this with earphones, I did the quotes. I like to call those dick fingers. With dick fingers, a game. No, thank you.
Yeah,
I would much rather read and even and play a game that was somebody's passion, like somebody felt that this game needed to exist, or they had this artistic expression that they felt they needed to get into the world. And when I play that game, I'm getting a little bit of that for myself. I'm getting to experience a little bit of that person and what makes them who they are. So they put it into their art or into their game design, or they put it into whatever the next thing is that AI is going to try to replicate. I'm really very, very angry that we were told someday computers will do all the menial stuff and then we'll be left to pursue the creative endeavors, and it's the opposite.
Yo, that's
AI,
so true.
AI is generating all of the quote unquote supposedly artistic endeavors, and we're all left with the menial garbage that we still have to do to just get through the day. That really pisses me off. I was promised a completely different future.
That's so fucking true. Like, wait, why are the computers drawing pictures? I want to draw pictures.
No, the computers are supposed to be doing all the boring tasks that nobody really wants to do, so that everybody can pursue something that they enjoy more, that fills their day with brightness and satisfaction.
Have yet to see one robot cleaning lady and one robot janitor.
Yeah, where's Rosie? The
Where's
Jetsons
Rosie?
taught me there would be a robot that would take care of my house. Well, no, there's AI out there, but I still got to clean my goddamn floors. Technically, there's Roombas, but if I spill something like liquid,
We have mops now too.
Oh yeah, the Roomba mops.
But really, are they really doing that great of a job? Can you really just let a robot loose in your house and be like, oh, it's always clean? No, it's like
It's gonna get stuck under something.
It always does.
You still got to go through, So I don't want to paint my walls. Like when I need to repaint the place, like where's the robot that's going to come in and paint the place for me?
I will say
Not that I want to put painters out of business. If there's people that really love painting, that's great. Paint, do it, have fun. People love going in. Some people will enjoy going into someone else's home and giving them a fresh new place to live in. It's like, hey, I just made your life a little better, and I made some money for myself in the process. But like all the menial stuff, like, why am I still doing that? And there's a freaking computer out there that's going to try to make a game, which is the thing I really want to do, but instead I'm regrouting the tile.
I still got to do gutters in 2025. This is bullshit.
Still got to take the trash out.
Oh my god, yes.
I want a robot to do my dishes.
I know, like I'm like
I've got a dishwasher, doesn't do a perfect job.
My sink is looking at me.
Prep them right.
Like,
anyway.
You can't hide from me forever. But I think and I've asked this. I think I've asked this of you every time I've talked to you. But like, I think the circumstances keep changing, which is like, if somebody walks up to you now and goes, I want to get started in game design. Like every time I've asked you this question, the answer has been a little bit more different, and I think it reflects the times.
Reflects the time. People's approaches change. Your opinion changes.
Like what do you say to that person that's just like, what advice would you give me in starting game design?
Do it. Give it a try. What's the worst that could happen? Honestly, really, what's the worst that could happen? You could design a game that you're not happy with and nobody wants to play. Okay, whatever. You spent some time being creative. And you learn something, and you probably learn something from it in the process. And so the next time you try to just, create a game, it'll be a little better. Believe me, I published Murders and Acquisitions in 2016. That was not the first game I designed. That was the first game I tried to publish. I designed other games before that, and they were hot messes. I got to a certain point, and I was like, nope. This is not good.
I don't think I've ever asked this question of a single game designer, and they have given any advice that is maybe wait or something like that. Like it's and I find that inspiring, especially with right now, y'all have nothing but my respect, because all small business owners in general have my respect right now, but facing the terrorists, the uncertain future of everything, and then the AI nonsense on top of that, it's just y'all are out here for the love of the game, and I think that is the heart of this hobby. So yeah, I like seeing that.
I think the important thing you need to remember is it's not necessarily about making good art. It's just about making art. It doesn't matter if it's good or bad. It just has to be out there.
I'm going to paraphrase. I went looking quickly to see if I could find the exact quote, but I'm going to paraphrase it. Kevin Smith, the filmmaker, has said a number of things that kind of pertain to this whole thing. And one of them is basically breaks down to, given the absurdity of the life we all live and the inevitability of our death, why you wouldn't spend every moment every chance, why wouldn't you spend every chance you could to try to make yourself happy and try to do something that you love? You only get so much time until we all, the singularity comes and we all download into a computer. But you only get so much time. You only have so much life that's in front of you, and you don't know when that's going to come to an end. So why wouldn't you just at least try?
Makes sense. It makes sense. Whew. This brings us to two segments that we have here. We have the TTRPG commandments, where we have asked a number of individuals on this show, and I will give you some examples. Amelia Tyler, the narrator of Baldur's Gate 3, gave us, "Thou shalt create fun experiences with players less experienced than you without the GM asking you to do so." Dr. Emily Freeman gave us, "Thou shalt play many different games with many different people." We have Haley Whipjack, who gave us, "Thou shalt believe oneself to be of equal importance to everyone at the table." Craig, I have to ask you, what would you add to the tablet as we come down the mountain to give the nerd fandom TTRPG commandments?
Oh boy. This is like this. What's going to go on your gravestone, Craig?
Oh, I know what's going on mine. When I leave, come together like butt cheeks. I have that written down. That is what's going on my tombstone. I'm counting on you. I'm counting on you, Fox, to make that happen.
Okay, so just having to do with TTRPG playing or designing, or
TTRPG playing, designing, or just the nerd experience as a whole. Like, we are expanding outside of just TTRPG. So
okay, so in terms of creative endeavors in general, thou shalt remember that no work of art is ever finished. It is only abandoned. And what that's paraphrasing Da Vinci, but basically it breaks down to, nothing's perfect. You're never going to make your creative thing perfect. There's a point where you can say, this is good. I'm happy with this. This satisfies me. And you can be like, okay, and that's that. It's done.
I like that. I like. I've tried my hand at making a game twice, and easily the hardest part is like thinking something is good enough to move on to the next thing. For me, like it's just like I've written the thing down, and I want to move on to the next part of the game, but it's like, but it could be better.
It can always be better. It can always be better.
And that's the trap. That is the trap, man.
It is. It took it. I mean, it's one of those things that it took me a while to kind of fully recognize that as well. There comes a point where you just have to say, okay, this is the expression that I have created, and that's as good as I'm going to pursue it to be. And with games, you can always do second edition and try to improve it.
Oh, you know what? That is fair. That is fair.
But but you also want to kind of, there's a satisfaction with having with creating something and finishing it, like completing it. Like I joke all the time. I've seen it kind of memed around on the internet where, it's people, and this is a broad general statement, just for the sake of the kind of a joke. People don't want to design a game. They want to have designed a game.
Oh, you know what that is? That is accurate. That is accurate.
And you have to come to terms with that, you have to do it, work it, get it there, and then done. And now you have designed the game, or you have painted the painting, or you have written the poem. And it is what it is. And it will stand on its own. Some people will like it. Some people will not. Some people will love it. For some people, it will be the thing that makes them smile. It will be the thing that they needed to see or hear when they were at their lowest.
Have you had
that is a gift you give someone.
Like, have you had that moment where somebody told you like your game was that thing that they needed at a time? Like, I'd love to hear that.
Not specifically. Someday, perhaps. And there may be people that like that. They feel that they just never, found a way to express it to me. But I have had, I've had people who, like, it's always kind of blows me away a little bit when somebody comes and seeks me out at a convention because they came specifically to find Nerdburger Games and talk to me. And, I've had people who, like, I tell this one all the time because again, it's something that stuck with me, and it's something I return to all the time, is being contacted by someone who just had to tell me that they play Die Laughing with their friends every Friday night before they do whatever they're doing for the rest of the night. They play a game of Die Laughing, and some of the people in the group aren't role players. They don't play any other role-playing games, but they're horror fans, and they know the tropes, and the game is simple enough that they just play it, and it's just part of their lives.
That's awesome.
And if they're doing it over and over again, it must be the thing that it must be doing something for them.
It's keeping a group together. I know that much, because like games can do that. Games can be the reason like groups stick around.
Sure. There are people who are still playing the same, with the same D&D group that they played with in high school in the 80s, even though they're all in different parts of the country and they only get a chance to play once a year or something. But they're still doing it because it means something to them, and it connects them.
Has the feeling of completing a project, has it changed as you've completed more projects, or do you get that same kick that you got the first time? Like,
I love it every time, every single time. Like when the game, and there's little wins and little moments of excitement and enjoyment all along the way, but like there's like for a game that you kickstarted, it's typically like when you fulfill the game, when I know the game is now in people, like the download link is in their inbox, the physical book is handed off to to the fulfiller, and it's going to be in the mail, like that is incredibly satisfying. And it is very satisfying, and I really love it every single time.
Hell yeah. Oh, this brings me to another one of our segments here.
But first is actually a really good question from Gray Day.
Oh,
do you have anything that you always do to celebrate when a game comes out? Is there like do you have like a tradition?
I don't specifically have a tradition because, you know, it's been 9 years of doing Nerdburger Games, and so things have changed. Like there was a time when I would usually have scotch in the house. I don't have alcohol in the house now anymore, but so like there was always scotch involved for the first few games. There's always something, but it has changed over time. It might be just like treating myself to like getting something for dinner that I don't often get, or that's expensive. So and that's maybe the reason I don't often get it, or being like, okay, well, this thing went out this week, so this coming weekend I am going to do nothing except binge this thing that I've been putting off, or I'm gonna, focus on. I'm gonna put game. I've got stuff that I want to do and create and do and kind of develop something or whatever. But I'm not gonna work on any game stuff. I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna be like, I'm going to, put together some event or activity online with some friends, or like something that like maybe I've been putting. Oftentimes it's something that I've put off. Because like when you're trying to finally get something done and out the door, it kind of preoccupies you. And so you might be kind of doing the old delayed gratification kind of thing. And so it can be, I'm going to go buy this thing that I've been putting on. Like,
I know after I sent that last batch of files off to you, I watched Doctor Who because I'd been putting off watching the newest episode.
There you go.
Have you ever had the experience of seeing your work out in the wild? Like I know that, like I was just perusing Facebook myself, and I saw some people talking about Sladowin, and I immediately like took a screenshot of it and sent it to Fox, like, see the thing you're working on. Have you just kind of just been like not even in your game designing mindset and then see your project out there? And what's that like?
Yeah, I've had times where I've, like, oh, there's a game of mine that's like in the game store because I went to this game store and I didn't realize that they had bought it from distribution or from Indie Press Revolution or wherever. And it's like, oh, here it is. It can be an online thing too, where like, they didn't specifically tag me to be like, hey, we're playing this cool game, or we streamed this game where we, played on Nerdburger game. And it just happens to make its way into my feed. So that's like the internet version of just happening upon something in the wild, where it's just like, oh, hey, like somebody played, had some nice things to say about Good Strong Hands, because right. And they didn't tag me. They're not someone I follow, but it just happened to end up in my feed. And that's like just stumbling on something in the world. Those are nice surprises.
Random question that it just popped up. If you had the chance to work on making a game for any IP, which one would you like to make?
I've been asked that question before, and my answer has usually been none. I'm 9 years deep into doing exactly the game that I want to do. I don't want to ask anybody permission.
Yo, I respect.
Because if you're working on an IP, there's approvals.
Yes. Yes.
You have to go through approvals. There's probably contracts involving like what you can do and how much you're going to do and how long you're going to do it. And there's certain
NDAs.
Requirements. There's NDA, yeah, just all that stuff. Like I can just make a thing that I want to make, and I can talk about it as much or as little as I want to, and I can make it exactly the way. And I'll garner feedback. I'll play test it, and I'll bounce it off of people that I trust to ask questions of, and get opinions from. But ultimately, it's my decision, and it's just like I love making the thing that I want to make.
Gray Bay
good.
says, flip the question. If you could have one of your game settings turned into another type of media, TV, movie, book, etc., which one game or setting would you want it to be, and what type of media?
I think Capers would make a slick television series.
Yeah. Yeah. I was hoping that'd be your answer.
Superheroes in the Roaring 20s? Absolutely.
Yep.
Oh,
shoot it in Chicago.
Yeah. I'm biased. You got me. We
Historic
got
buildings. Yep. By the way, anybody who's listening here, the Capers intellectual property is for sale and licensing. I would be happy to license you to make a television series of Capers.
Would you like, if you had the choice, would it be live action or would it be animated? Because I could see a good argument for both.
I'd be fine with either.
I really like the art style in the books. Like the art style of the books is
yeah.
just
Beth
so...
Barney's art's great.
Beth could do concepting. That would be. I'm sure she would. I'm sure she would jump at the chance to do concepting for a TV series. But yeah, I'd be okay with either one.
Hell yeah.
I would say animate the intro and then with Beth's art, and then have live action. Split the difference.
Capers is so much fun to play. Seriously,
oh yeah, you could do the back and forth like this is because it is supers during the era that spawned. You know, we're just around the corner from comic books happening, so it's physically looks that way. You could literally have an opening title sequence that's animated that then it dissolves. At the end of the opening sequence, it dissolves from the animation into the first shot of the series, the first shot of the episode, and then you could do like an animation still frame at every act break, at every commercial break, like where like the thing's going on, and then it dissolves very quickly into like a drawing.
I miss that
of that, and then it goes to commercial, and it comes back to a drawing, like a comic book style drawing, and then that dissolves into the actual actors doing the thing. You could go back and forth. That could be fun because then it constantly reinforces like this is supposed to be kind of fun and
super powered gangsters in 1920s. Like
there's all sorts of artistic flourishes you could take with that.
That would be so slick.
I miss when the media had to have bumpers for commercials.
Bumpers for commercials and theme songs. Like we don't have theme songs the way we used to. They don't slap as hard as they once did.
Unless it's Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. That theme song is great.
Well, I'll say this. There are opening themes that are really great from various eras. And then there's some real garbage. And I'm glad that we don't do opening themes like that anymore. I would like to point you to BJ and the Bear from the 70s. BJ and the Bear, if you're not familiar, was a series about a man, Greg Evigan, who eventually was on My Two Dads. He was the fun dad. He's a trucker. And he's got an orangutan with him because in the 70s we were enraptured with the idea of monkeys and apes running around with people and being funny. And he had an orangutan with him who rode with him in his truck, and basically it was those two, and then there was like one or two other characters who were main characters that were occurring, but the guy was on the road. He was in the truck driving, so he was always in different places. So it was always a new cast. It was like Quantum Leap. Like you had a couple core characters, and then it was always a guest cast. The opening sequence was a minute and 10 seconds long or something like that, of mostly of him driving, of like the truck driving down the road. It's just shot after shot after shot of a semi truck driving down a big highway. It's horrible. And it was at the time when you were watching that on TV, you had to watch it. There was no fast forward.
It's a minute and 38 seconds, and I'm watching it right now. And it's
different in different seasons. They do. I think it changes in different seasons.
Oh,
but yeah, it's like, wow, that was Amazing.
I can't. You're right. They have them numbered. There's version 2,
But
version 3.
then you have a show that I've been rewatching lately that mostly holds up pretty well, which is the Drew Carey show from the 90s. And they changed the opening sequence. It was Moon Over Parma with the animated face in the first season. In the second season, they had something else, but then the third season onward, it was Cleveland Rocks. It was the song Cleveland Rocks.
I thought that was
and it was him
Wow.
running around and singing with the other cast members, and he was in certain shots he was singing with like actual people in Cleveland. They were at locations in Cleveland. And it's 30 seconds long, and it's fucking awesome. It's a great opening sequence because it's 30 seconds, and it's all about the setting of the show. And they're having fun, and there's some real people in it who were part of this. And I love it. I watch it every time.
Attention and not overstay its welcome.
Yeah, it's got a catchy song, and it was done in 30 seconds. When I'm watching the episodes, Ohio at the end. Yeah, when I'm watching it, I watch it. I don't skip it. I watch it every single time because it's a fun song. It's a fun little 30-second opening.
I remember. Wasn't that Presidents of the United States, the band that did that song?
I'm not sure who the band was.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, like
I only know them from Lump.
Yeah, it is Presidents of the United States of America.
Oh, the Drew Carey show is so. They had that lady who was like heavily makeup, and she was just
Mimi.
Mimi. Oh
Yep.
my gosh!
My favorite sequence from that show ever was when they go to the theater to watch Rocky Horror, and Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, is in it, and then there's the dance battle.
They have a dance off.
The dance off and musical number that ensues is so perfect.
They do some really wacky kind of experimental stuff on that show, and I had forgotten about it until I've been rewatching it. There's the dance battle. They do this opening sequence at one point where Drew's having a nightmare that everybody's turning into aliens, and then it flips to the Moon Over Parma opening sequence, but it's Drew's alien head with the big glass with his glasses, but it's an alien head, and he's singing like Moon Over Slorgoth, whatever planet he was from, and then it does like a needle needle drag and ends, but they commit to the bit. There was one opening where how does it work? It's like Kate walks in. It's set in Drew's office at his cubicle, and the camera doesn't move, and Kate walks in and like does something in the cubicle and then walks out. And then Kate walks in and does that it's a repeat. Kate walks in and does that exact thing again. And then while she's doing that, somebody else walks in and does something. And then they both walk out. And then Kate walks in and does a thing, and the other person walks in and does a thing. And then there's this overlay of like every main character comes into the cubicle and starts doing something that they use the special effects to overlay. And it just keeps going. And you're just like, and it's like, it's kind of funny and amusing for a little bit, but it's one of those jokes where they keep doing it and it stops being funny, and then it starts being funny again. Because you realize, they're really committing to this. They're going to let this repeated sequence happen like 4 more times. And then it cuts to the opening sequence or the opening titles, and that's it. There was no story. It was just them doing this weird special effects repeat thing.
That show had a hell of a cast. Didn't it have like most of the people from Who's Line in it?
Yeah, Ryan Stiles is in it as one of Drew's friends, and Ryan Stiles introduced Drew Carey to Whose Line Is It Anyway, the British show, and that's how it all happened in the U.S.
Oh, did not know. Yeah, we got a lot from the Drew Carey show.
We really did. We got Craig Ferguson. We got Mimi is a great character. She the actress never did a ton. It wasn't like real big afterwards, but like the guy who plays Oswald too. He's in a bunch of stuff. Does the voice of Batman in one of this? What's that?
Diedrich
Bader. He's the voice of Batman, Bruce Wayne Batman in one of the series.
Brave and Bold.
Yep, and then we got Craig Ferguson. We were introduced to Craig Ferguson out of that, and the actress who plays Kate eventually goes on to Scrubs and some other Bill Lawrence stuff. She's like in everything Bill Lawrence has ever done since then. It's got a great recurring minor cast, like the people that work at the office that keep coming back, they keep showing up again. great recurring. It's a solid show. It's got a little. There's every so often there's something that's like that's not a good joke for now, because sensibilities have changed. It wasn't a good joke then either. Let's be clear, but sensibilities have changed, and it would it's less so now.
Some shows aged,
but not
like milk.
but not like terribly so. Like it's just every now and then, and there's also some relatively progressive stuff in there, especially for the era.
I'll tell you one thing. Watch his South Park from the beginning. Now
she's rough. She's a rough.
That's
watch.
rough, buddy. But that is going to bring us to our final segment here, and we ask this of everybody that comes on. Well, final two, because we leave on a positive note. But the first one is, if you've been in the TTRPG space for long enough, you've probably had the displeasure of playing with that guy, someone that is a veritable black hole of fun at the table. Somebody, if they were yeeted into the sun, your experience would improve tenfold. So, have you had the experience of playing with that guy? And what was that like?
Yes, I have. And here's the story. This takes place when I went to Winter Fantasy convention years and years ago.
Winter Fantasy, where's that at?
It's in I want to say Fort Wayne, Indiana. I'm not even sure if it still exists, to be honest. But at the time, I went to that, and this was when they had a convention. They had an adventure or game event D&D series of events that were called, and they did it at Gen Con as well. It's called the D&D Open. They would have the D&D Open, and you could at Gen Con, if you were in the D&D Open, you played at a table, and then there would be at the end of the game, everybody would vote for who was the best role player. It wasn't who got most experience or anything, but the people would vote, and the GM would break the ties. And then if you got voted best, you got to play in another D&D Open event. And so the pool, there was 1/6 of the table. There was 6 people at the table. There was 1/6 of the tables. So now you were there were only 6 tables in the second round. And whoever got voted in the second round went to the end. And there was one table who got to play like the end of this whole adventure thing. And everybody who played in that table got like prizes and stuff like you know. And to get into the D&D Open, there was different ways, and one of the ways was you could win your way in basically by winning at another convention where the D&D they were like qualifiers basically, right? So I won the qualifier at Winter Fantasy, and so I was going to be playing in the D&D Open at Gen Con. I was living in Milwaukee at the time, and that's where Gen Con was at the time. So it was very easy for me to attend.
Okay.
And in the first round, so it's like 36 tables, right? With 6 people. I think, no, hold it. Yeah. There's 1 table, 6 tables, 36 tables. But anyway, had a table, and we were playing in a 4-hour game session. We're playing D&D, and this is like, this is early. I don't even remember. No, I think this was still the very tail end of 2nd edition. It was like late 90s. And there was one guy at the table who was that guy. And he was the guy who stole the moment. Like was big personality, never shut up, always kind of inserted himself into everything. He was trying to win D&D, but in the D&D Open, where winning D&D was actually possible. Like you could be voted to go to the next event.
Yeah.
And he was that guy through the whole thing. And as I was, I just kept, kind of playing my character as best I could and playing the game and having fun. But I was noticing how much of a pain in the ass he was. And I was noticing that other people at the table were getting exasperated with him. They recognized what he was up to. And so I devoted myself to making sure to knock him out of the spotlight as much as possible and refocus the spotlight to other people. And that's how I got voted into the second round.
Yes.
So it was a little self-serving because I thought maybe they'll notice me as well. But at the time I was just like, there's people who are sitting here who are trying to have a conversation with the GM or trying to pipe up and voice their character or whatever. And he keeps just kind of rolling over people. And I was just, I made it my career for a few hours to make sure he didn't get voted, that he didn't get this, sit there and steal a spotlight and kind of be a jackass all the time.
Oh, that is.
And then I went to the second round and I didn't get into the third round.
That is nature healing. That is what that is.
Winter Fantasy is still a thing. The 50th edition is next year.
Oh boy,
where's that at?
It is still in Fort Wayne, February 4th through 8th, 2026. This year it was the 5th to the 10th.
I like
February.
it. So, our final segment. Is the community. What's up?
Oh no, no.
Our final segment.
Oh, okay. I was like, did my sound go? I'm so used to my audio being changed. I was just like, oh no, my microphone. Our final segment is the community spotlight. This is where you have a chance to like call out people that you enjoy in the space, people that whose work you admire. This is where you can shine a little light on folks.
Sure, I'll do this. I went to a local kind of meetup thing that happens one Saturday a month that's specifically geared toward GMs and prospective aspiring designers. And it was me and a couple of other people who were actually, design and publish stuff. And then a bunch of people who kind of came to learn about that sort of stuff.
Right.
And ask questions and all this. And one of the people I met was a guy named Tiger Wizard, which is his nom de plume of sorts. His real name, his regular name is out there too, but he went by Tiger, and he's one of the people at Exalted Funeral, who I will throw some love to, because I got to meet this guy. We had some great conversation after the whole meetup and everything wrapped up. He and I and one other person sat down and had a beer, and chatted a bit. And super cool person. I had no idea that Exalted Funeral was as many people as it is. He said there's 10 people, full-time employees, which is actually big. It's pretty big for a game company, because there are plenty of game companies that are only 2 or 3 people plus freelancers. And Exalted Funeral, they do some of their own design work. And they also, they publish, or they sell. They have a whole storefront where they sell other people's stuff, and they've got a few of my games there as well, and have for a while. They've got a game on BackerKit right now called The Job. It's a box set kind of game. It's a heist game, so check it out on BackerKit. It is funded. They will definitely happen, but you can take a look at it. It's got a great, very stylized art look to it. Hard to describe without you just go to look at it.
Yeah,
they did the Monty Python RPG.
Yes, they did. He talked briefly about that and how much of a chore that was, where they got into the whole IP, getting approvals from the license owner and all that sort of stuff. So it was a very long, arduous process to get that game made, because it's an IP.
The same thing happened with the Avatar Legends game, because they had us do play test, and we would give them like feedback, and then they would have to send that feedback to Viacom, and Viacom would respond whenever they felt like it. So like when you had your answer to the IP question, I was just like, yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes all the sense in the world. How about you, Fox? Anybody you would want to recognize before we start getting on out of here?
Ooh. I don't have a community spotlight this week. Actually, I think my community spotlight's gonna go out to chat. While we were having a very heartfelt conversation, we're talking about brands of barbecue sauce.
In the stream.
But on a more serious note, I want to say thanks to Grey Day, because they've been asking some like really insightful, amazing questions lately. So like, shout out to them. And also they've been having me back whenever I accidentally misname myself, and like if I'm misnamed somewhere else, they're like, "Hey, just so you know, you should fix this." And I'm like, "That's been very helpful, thank you."
Grey Day's a real one, for real.
Yeah.
That's Community spotlight on Gray Day. Shout out to you. Like, seriously. Again, amazing questions. And yeah, I think that's us for today. I've been one of your hosts, Noah. You can find me all over the internet as the Noah Enigma. That's all the social platforms. I'm not going to try to remember all right now. It's a goddamn nightmare. But that's where you can find me.
I'm AJ Fox, she, they. You can find me everywhere at Fox Fabula, because I just renamed myself over every single social media.
All 20,000 of them.
All 20,000 of them.
And I'm Craig Campbell. I'm Nerdburger Craig on a bunch of social media. The website is nerdburgergames.com. There's a Kickstarter going right now for Slay to Win. So you can check that out. That's the card game we were talking about earlier. As part of the attempt by Nerdburger Games to weather all of the weird stuff that's going on economically right now, I started a Ko-Fi for Nerdburger Games. So that's available. You can go look for Nerdburger Games at ko-fi.com, Ko-fi if you're not familiar.
Did we freeze? I think we froze.
Get some games in some people's hands and get some money that'll help to make this card game happen for sure. Because there's a lot of expense involved in making a game. So all of that. And yeah, there you go.
Hell yeah. Well, we'll see you all on the next one. Thank you so much for joining us. Now stop receiving us right now. Stop it.
Until next time, everybody. The ritual has concluded. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for joining us. This is so much fun.
That's the mood today. That is the mood today.